In the U.S. and Korea shipbuilding collaboration has been a big talking point for throughout this year. Obviously, with the U.S. need to urgently increase their ship fleets and modernize those fleets to basically improve the overall the efficiency and readiness of the naval ships. Korea is taking a big step and also working closely with the U.S. Going forward. Clearly, Hana Ocean and Hyundai Heavy are in the forefront of that effort, and also U.S. and Korea governments also made a deal that the large investment in the onshore U.S. market to basically improve the overall productivity and the efficiency of the yard operation they have in the States.
One thing that was also mentioned by one of our colleagues in the U.S. is that while there is that opportunity to build this out, the Philly shipyard for Hanwha Ocean might actually be constrained because of the current capacity it has. Can you talk to us about how difficult or how long it might take or how challenging it might be for a typical shipyard like the Philly shipyard to expand to make sure they can accommodate some of these opportunities? Because one thing they said that is one of the big challenges for South Korean shipbuilders really is capacity at the moment. How difficult or how long would it take for them to expand, to capitalize on opportunities like this?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Philly shipyard that the Hana Ocean acquired, obviously there has been lack of any investment in last decade or so. And clearly we need a lot more scaling up the operation and modernizing the yard. So this will take at least 3 to 4, 5 years. I guess 3 to 4 years will be more reasonable expectation in terms of like CapEx spending as well as the upgrade of yard. But I guess the bigger bottleneck is not the capacity itself, it's actually the workers and the supply chain, which I believe will take more than 5 years to build one. And the training and labor shortage clearly is the biggest bottleneck that we see in the U.S. Shipyard operation for Hana Ocean and other Korean companies.
James, Dan joining the conversation here. Walk me through the valuations that we're seeing in some of these names as well. We just saw Hanwha Shipping, of course, up around 200% for the course of this year, up some near 15% this week alone. Do you think the sector is getting a little ahead of itself off the back of this announcement?
Well, clearly the market is getting more excited again. I mean, clearly there has been some excitement early this year. The overall excitement kind of got eased or slowed down after the tech rally started in the third quarter, fourth quarter in Korea market, and also especially after the APEC summit where the Trump were here to meet the President Lee to discuss about the collaboration. However, if you think about the underlying fundamentals and also the strong wallet, the total addressable market that we have and the cost advantage these companies clearly have, not all, but I would say the shipbuilding sector in Korea is still yet fully pricing in those potential. More importantly, as we head into next year with the growing naval opportunity globally, as we highlight in our research, clearly there is an easing cyclicality coming from the commercial vessel shipbuilding, which is basically LNG carrier container ship. Now Koreans are tapping into more secular growth opportunity, which is a naval business.
Indeed, and as you have flagged, it does reduce the cyclicality perhaps that has always plagued these shipbuilding stocks. So my question would be, what can we expect next when it comes to this sector as well? Are you expecting to see more announcements from the United States that could potentially broaden the scope of opportunity for this sector overall?
So starting with the U.S., obviously there are a couple of regulations that need to be changed in order for Korea to get involved in the naval shipbuilding side. Or the Korean may need to invest directly into U.S. onshore, just like what Hana Ocean did with the Philly shipyard. So there could be a couple more of the announcements from the Korean side, especially a part of the MASCA fund, which is a $150 billion deal that Korea and U.S. made. Clearly, there will be a lot more of investment and the announcement related to this and the regulation changes going forward. There is another big opportunity outside the U.S. as well. I mean, next year, we're going to see Canadian submarine projects, which is a $20-30 billion project, a significant the impact to the naval shipbuilding business. We are seeing the growing demand coming from non-U.S. side as well, such as like Philippines or Latin America, European countries and Canadian Navy as well. This will overall boost the order flow as well as the profitability of these companies.
James, I want to go back to capacity, and I bring that up because we did have a conversation a few months ago with the CEO of Mitsui O.S.K. when the port fees were being threatened by the Trump administration in the middle of the year. And he actually said that the only places you can get competitive shipbuilding is China and South Korea. And again, that the only thing really holding them back from going to South Korea is capacity, meaning even if I wanted to order a ship from South Korea, the shipyards there are too full, and the only place they can really go to now is China with capacity. Do you think that's a fair assertion of the difference? And can you give us an idea of what the differences are in terms of capacity between South Korea and China? And if South Korea needs to at least try to find a way to expand to make sure that capacity does not become a hindrance for them in capitalizing on these shipbuilding opportunities vis-a-vis some of their Chinese counterparts?
So when you look at the global shipbuilding industry, I would say the half of capacity is actually coming from China, whereas Korea is like 25 to 30% of the capacity, which is mostly focused on high-end value-added ships like large container ship or LNG and gas carriers. As we see last couple of years, I mean, clearly the shipbuilding demand has been very strong, and this actually led to a longer lead time for many of the shipbuilding. The one you build today, when you order today, you'll probably get your vessel in 28 or 29. Which means that some of this capacity are currently being fully utilized and does need to expand the capacity. However, the shipbuilding, especially commercial vessel shipbuilding, is a highly cyclical sector, meaning that we are probably at the peak of the cycle, and that basically is why the Koreans is not rushing to add capacity. Instead, they're thinking about using some of these commercial capacity which will be freed up from 29, 2030 into naval. So we don't really see the Korean now rushing to add capacity. Clearly, there are a lot of constraints for them to add capacity, such as labors and lack of skill set for those cheap labor they import from other countries. So they're more chasing of the high value added and also more supply chain decoupling benefit in naval side. So clearly outside of China, especially US and Western allies want to buy the naval ships and submarine from the non-Chinese shipyard, which actually leaves the Koreans the only option to these countries.
Okay. But one thing you also hinted at a while ago, James, was supply chain issues. Now, it's been well documented that the auto industry, the aircraft industry have all been grappling with these crippling supply chain issues. Is it the same scenario for shipbuilders right now, and that that the supply chain issues and constraints on parts and components is keeping them from fulfilling their orders sooner than later?
Well, I mean, it's one part of the issue. Clearly, the shipbuilding and supply chain need to form a cluster, since this is basically heavy industry. I mean, all the parts are very heavy, and the shipping cost between the one area to another can be a large cost factor that affect the overall profitability of the project. So the Koreans actually need to build their own supply chain in the U.S. in order to actually build ships in the U.S. at the pace of what they want, at the profitability what they need. So that clearly is one of the factors. However, most of the value that we are talking about, supply chain bottleneck we're talking about, is actually machinery related, engineering related, not just a simple commodity like heavy plate or steel plate, because those are actually in a bit of like oversupply when you look at, especially when you look at in Asia.